We've also provided our learners and our staff different language to use, growth mindset language versus fixed mindset language. All members of the PPS staff, the pupil service staff at all 3 buildings, are reading the growth mindset coach. And each month at staff meetings, staff members are being provided a growth mindset experience as well as a lesson plan to try that month with their learners. You can just see some of the examples that are on the walls at the Mayville Middle School.
And also during our faculty meetings, we're doing monthly growth mindset examples of what teachers can try. And so we had one last month, and now at our first staff meeting, Lee will be asking teachers what worked, what didn't work, where we need to go, where we need to grow as far as trying new and different things. And so we're really trying to make it not a one-stop, got it in service and now it's gone. It's what we're going to do throughout the school year.
And one of my favorite sayings is new mindset, new results. That's what we're looking for this year, new results.
We're really excited at the high school, obviously with all the great transformations that are happening in our building. But we have a group of students that were selected, roughly 20 or so, 16 to 20 students. And so now they're looking at language that they want to use in the lobby. And so they've really taken everything that we've said to heart is where we want to go with our building. And so when you walk into the building, the entrance where there'll be a Wordle, I learned something new. I didn't know what a Wordle was until now. But getting the different language that shows a growth mindset. And the kids have been really positive and have been very energetic and excited about making that building and their own and adding this to it. So this has been an exciting change in mindset, that it isn't just the way the principals or the superintendent or whatever want it. They're a part of making that decision, which I think has been a great growth mindset as far as changing their empowerment to their building.
Yeah, that's still a work in progress, I think.
Yes.
They have until this Wednesday to finalize.
And they're excited about it, so it's been nice.
So from the walls to the stalls, we have we have growth mindset messaging all across the district. These are some of the stalls at the middle school. All of the stalls, grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8, have some kind of motivational message on them, just something outside of the box for our learners. One other thing that the district has done, and we're so appreciative of, are the shirts that every single staff member has. It just shows that growth mindset message, and even if we're not there yet, we're a work in progress. So we're excited about the next 100 days. We feel like we've made great strides so far.
Hello. I'm Carrie Matheson. I am one of our district reading specialists, and I've also taken on a few extra duties this year. One of them is K-8 curriculum and assessment coordinator. And so part of my job and part of some of the things that I do is work on this vertical alignment of learning targets. And so that's my part today. So priority 2 is our vertical alignment of learning targets. We will vertically align learning targets to provide a rigorous continuum of learning. So a little bit about the process and how this all came about. We began with a group of essential questions. What do we want students to learn? How will we know if they've learned it? What will we do if they don't learn? And what will we do if they already know it? And so as you're going to see, the things that we've done are the steps in the process. So the first thing we did is we looked at all the, individually reviewed all of the standards. The next thing that we did is we rated the standards as priority or supporting. So we looked at all of the standards and we said, okay, based on readiness, endurance, assessments and exams, and leverage, which ones do we feel are the priority standards that we want all the students to master at the grade level, and which ones support those standards? Okay. Then we went through a process of writing the learning targets. So what do we want learners to know and be able to do? And through that process, we used the depth of knowledge. And basically what we wanted to do is we wanted to get those level 3 and level 4 depth of knowledge targets, because we really want to have kids strategically thinking and reasoning and extending their thinking. So we had that in mind as we were writing our targets. After we did that, we met vertically with other grade level teams because we wanted to make sure that there weren't any gaps. We wanted to align everything. We wanted to make sure that if there were gaps, what grade levels were going to address those standards. Looking for overlaps, and then making sure, does the standard build or spiral through subsequent grades. The next thing we did was we produced the drafts. And so over here is a example of a 3rd grade English language arts draft. We're currently updating all of those for completion. And what we're going to do is we're making the changes based on all of our vertical conversations that we've had with grade levels. And so by vertical conversations, we're meeting with other grade levels, but we're also meeting by Park is meeting with the middle school, and the middle school is also with the English department, different departments, meeting with the high school, so that we're making sure that everything is vertically aligned. So then what we're doing now is we're producing these documents for teacher use and then eventually for public view. So there will be a different product for us as teachers that will be a little bit more, will give us a little bit more information about what we're doing in our classrooms and our teaching. And then there will be a public view. And Lee, public view is going to be just
the proficiency targets.
Just the proficiency.
Underneath a domain or big idea.
And we are planning on putting these on the webpage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the idea of that. And so our next steps is that we're going to continue to develop grade level common assessments. We have many grade level common assessments that we're currently using, but we're going to continue to develop more to make sure that we have a rigorous curriculum and to make sure that our students are mastering these standards. We're going to continue to have data discussions at all levels. These data discussions look at current data, past data. We look at the common assessment data, and basically what we end up doing is we end up using all that data to inform our instruction. The next part, processes and procedures in place for RTI, response to intervention. And basically that's talking about the questions of how do we know if a student knows it? What do we do if they don't know it? What do we do if they do know it? So we want to hit the students who are struggling, the students who are on level, and the students who are already above level, and we want to see the growth in all students. We are also creating resource maps to support our intervention, practice, and extension, and we are making sure we have a continuous improvement cycle in place to ensure that there is a constant review and update of those learning targets. And that is the end of my part.
So the third,
Wow.
oh, sorry,
I'll get that.
thank you.
Start over.
Do I need to come back up?
So the third priority is universal instruction practices, and the first thing I just want to quickly share is that, and I hope you're getting this piece from the nice presentations that started tonight, is that these do not operate in isolation. Priority 3 without priorities 1 and 2 has no impact whatsoever. 1 can't exist without 2 and 3, 2 without 1 and 3. So keep in mind as we put this together, they are all working in congruence. So we will strengthen universal instruction in numeracy and literacy in order to meet the needs of all learners. And to Carrie's point for her number 1 is what do we want kids to be able to know and do? This is where the heart is. This is our day-to-day instruction in all our buildings and classrooms. So quickly, teaching without learning is simply presenting. So we're trying to work with our staff. What we need to do is our instruction and assessment day-to-day has to be targeted. It has to be purposeful, really intentional with what we want kids to know and be able to do. So there is the definition. You may also hear it as UDL, Universal Design for Learning, but basically it's the premise that planning and delivery of instruction as well as the evaluation of learning can incorporate inclusive attributes that embrace diversity in learners without compromising academic standards. And it speaks to the growth that I think Carrie mentioned, is that we are measured on all students growing beyond their normal demographic group and when compared to others. So that's an important piece to know.
Do you want to go to that document?
Yeah, why don't we do it quick? Each priority created an ELF, which is an adult learning framework, and I thought of the three, this is the one you may want to look at. So where we want to go, and we can provide these for you. Each priority is driven out of an ELF, which is right there. So one of these exists for each priority, and where we want to get with our universal instruction is obviously to the far right when it is institutionalized. And the far right column in the green is where we need to be with vertical and horizontal alignment. Students with disabilities or students in different demographic groups receive the same gen ed universal instruction and standards that all their kids do. Teams routinely examine student data, and then teams collect and share data on adult practices. So this is really everything of the priorities coming together in one piece. And obviously not overnight. This is over a period of time. All right, Scott, I can go to the next one. All right, so things that we did this summer to help our universal instruction is for 2 days, excuse me, this summer, all teachers in grade, classroom teachers in grade K through 8, we had a lady named Stephanie Woody from Sun Prairie School District came up and worked on the workshop model of reading and writing. I am not a reading teacher, so Carrie, if there's anything you or Patty or Becky, anybody want to add in here about the workshop model, but it was really what we had found from teacher feedback this past spring is that not all current teachers had been trained recently, if at all, in the workshop model. So this is one of our tenets of the universal instruction, is that the readers and workshop model in grades K through 8. So Stephanie came up and spent 2 days with us. What's also nice about this is that Stephanie is returning and she'll be working with the principals, because it's one thing for her to create what is best practice for teachers, but then as principals, if we go in the classroom, we have to be able to support the teachers and know the same thing that they've been taught. So she has a day where she'll come back and work with our principal teams. And then also, regards to K-8, Parkview, Becky, was the phonics driven out of this or kind of on your own?
Conversations that we had actually at the very beginning of the year with regards to our kids' performance and understanding.
Yeah, so Becky, down at Parkview, they started a specific targeted K2 phonics program, which will blend nice with this. And there's pictures of our teachers down at Parkview working with their kids. And then for other teachers, we, and Bob, this is something Mr. Clark had started a year earlier, and we just kind of wrapped it up into the summer, into this school year, was the RAD, Reading Apprenticeship Across Disciplines, is also reading across content areas. The K-12 and 5-12, this is designed for our non-classroom teacher, art teachers, band teachers, and our entire 9-12 staff. So elective teachers and high school staff, and a couple tag-alongs from the middle school, have begun to work with Ann Pagel from CISA and Beth Minty from Grafton, who will also be coming back this fall to get caught up with our teachers. So basically the idea is, here are strategies we want you to use. We're going to come back in the fall and we're going to come back in the spring to see how you're doing with those. And basically what we have to do is increase our kids' ability to read and comprehend complex materials, think critically about text, and literacy is the overall reaching way to do that across all content areas. What we also did to support this is we purchased a program called News ELA, which Bob and his staff had looked at last year, and it really, what it does is it gives reading examples for all topics and subject areas. So now we can read in non-English classes very, very easily.
The nice part about that too is this is year 3, and the first 2 years we actually participated with CISA in a cohort, and we had that PD for our staff through a grant. And so this is basically year 3, continuing to expand from the middle school, onto the high school and adding more and more people, staff.
And I think for the first time in quite a while that we probably had the best connection from our summer school, or our summer PD into what we're trying to do during the school year. There's a direct connection through the numeracy and literacy. The other area we worked, we did some numeracy workshops in grades K through 12. Basically, we need to address math instruction and assessment back to our strategies based on our data. So grades K through 2 spent time on operations and algebraic thinking, number operations. Becky has one teacher who spent 5 days at an math institute in Appleton. She is now teaming with Stacy Walworth, one of our math interventionists and coaches at Parkview, to bring the good word among the K2 staff. And then the 3-12 staff also had 2 days in which they looked at our data, and then they began to really examine teacher strategies in classroom environment and questioning techniques. And that was handled by Shelley Dawn from Menasha. Shelley has already returned once this year, spent some time at middle school and at the high school, and we'll get Shelley back once, if not 2 more times before the snow flies around Christmas break. She too will meet with Bob and I and the admin team in terms of best practice math instruction. And in the questioning techniques, Patty, would you say, of the things I've seen, the questioning techniques that now we have at our fingertips for kids is probably one of the most meaningful things I took out of it. So it was really, really nice to see. And then the other thing that came out was we are far more intentional and specific about our Wednesday meeting schedule. The former version of the faculty meeting, as you would call it, have really developed and evolved into specific things each week. The other part of how we've changed schedules in the middle school is we have changed start time to allow teachers daily opportunity to meet on all the things, the data examination of practice that Carrie had mentioned. So middle school right now has a later start time to allow that to happen. And then this is our monthly schedule. So our first Wednesday of the month, for example, 2 days from now, is a normal typical staff meeting. It does always have a section for growth mindset. So we've committed to that minimally we'll get a monthly dose of growth mindset. Then the second Wednesday is building teams. Basically, it could be the BLT or building leadership team. It could be grade level teams. It could be the entire 5th grade team. Everybody is on a team though. Then third week is if you are on a district team, you'll attend that team meeting. If not, you are still back in your building and you get another dose or another week of building teams, which I really believe with the work we're doing with targets is needed. And then the fourth Wednesday of the month is vertical alignment teams. That might be your 2nd and 3rd grade meeting together. It could be your K2 group meeting together. It might be 6-12 English meeting together. It could be the K-12 special ed team meeting together. So that's how we're using the Wednesdays. So Bob and Becky, anything to share from the building perspective? Core team, anything to add?
All
Right. You get to wrap it up.
So wrapping up then, is our work for the school year. And we really, the way we've presented this information to the staff, and really we think we have a lot of buy-in from the staff, and we had a great beginning of the school year. Anybody I speak to said this has been just a fantastic start of the school year in general for our buildings. We really feel like we're making some great progress. And then it's nothing new is what we're trying to get across to them. So we've talked about growth mindset, but it hasn't been this intentional level of really trying to shape a culture about a growth mindset. We had absolutely talked about vertical alignment and working on the standards, but we're just making a priority to wrap up the work we've already started, and then we've provided a team to help do some of that work for them too. So right now, the teachers, on top of everything else that they've got going on, have been working on this vertical alignment. So Stacy with our new committee structure, Stacy is a part of it, but Carrie with our new committee structure is really helping to coordinate our efforts as at a K-8 level, working with me and myself at a K-12 level to pull together all of the work. And then universal instruction, that'll always be under construction, just so you know. It'll always be. It's continuous improvement, always trying to do more, period. So we believe, though, that this is the right work. We're not trying to do anything new. We're not trying to chase something shiny over there. We're trying to really get great at what we do. We do a good job. We want to do a fantastic job. We absolutely have pockets of excellence. We want a system of excellence. So it really is about a systems thinking approach to this now, being very mindful and intentional with the work. And I think it's really setting us up well to start talking about a strategic plan, knowing that along the way, go back to that one slide, probably one of the most important slides, is that continuous improvement looks like this all over the place. It's not a perfectly straight line. So we'll absolutely have some great successes. We'll have some things like, oh, well, that didn't work so well, but we're going to keep going. Kids deserve it. That's what it's all about. So definitely want to say thank you to the people, to the team members that showed up tonight. That's great. They are a group of volunteers, really, when it comes to the core team. They are give up probably 3, 4, 5, depending on how long we go, extra hours above and beyond. And then when we head to different workshops and things, they really have been donating their time to do that. And what's great is they're compelled to do this work. We're all very excited about it. And we're looking forward to this school year and the work to come. So we just want to share that with you, and we're all here for any questions that you may have.
Are the learners aware of what's being done? I mean, this is obviously a very well-planned process. Are the students aware of, of what's happening?
Well, I can say a couple of things, and you guys, it's free to answer. There's no. What I really am trying to get with this team too is we're all a part of that team. So yes, it's my team, for sure, but equal voice, absolutely. So everybody in the room should be able to say, well, I've seen it over here, and yes to that. We all have our own lens as we approach this work. So I would say growth mindset. We actually have a curriculum that's entering into the classrooms, and if you go into different classrooms, especially at the younger ages, you can actually see growth mindset bulletin boards. We could have kept showing you more and more examples of that, but we have definitely used the language like about the power of yet. I don't have it yet, but I will. That's not a new concept to Mayville. I think it's another level, another trying to get it to stick and have it believe. It's one thing to use the language, it's another to have it be. It's my mindset. So I know that they can speak to some of the increased presence of that.
My first grade daughter comes home talking about the growth mindset all the time, and she's at Parkview, so she has that from first grade, that understanding.
We also have a Mind Up curriculum that we use at our primary building that definitely helps to support the growth mindset effort, and it's about mindfulness, being in the moment and understanding how you feel. We have a major social emotional curriculum push. This year we adopted a new curriculum for that and are helping provide training for teachers to help support that. When it comes to universal instruction, reading and writing workshop, it's not new to Mayville, but I sure hope that they experience in the classroom our school improvement initiative, our efforts, and are getting a higher quality experience. So our teachers through the training hopefully are bringing like another level of being able to confer with our students, being able to talk about and use the workshop language with the students. When we found out this last spring that some of our hires really hadn't had the training, that was a big okay, let's focus. And we actually heard a lot about back to basics. So you didn't see it in the presentation, you didn't hear that being used, but it's a lot about let's get that core down. Let's just focus down, back to basics. So don't chase that shiny ball that I mentioned. Let's focus on the core. Reading, writing, numeracy. Reading, writing, numeracy. And what does it mean, best practice, for those content areas? So, Kara, you might be able to speak a little bit more about, okay, if I'm a student, am I feeling something different this school year?
So I can speak to the standards. Students definitely are aware of what standards are priority at specific grade levels and what targets lead to those standards. And because it's used as the language of the objectives and things like that in the lessons and the things that are taught. I mean, it's basically like we are doing this. And so they actually are able to say, I am working on reading fluently, or I am working on, something that's attached to the standards. So there's been a lot more students being front and center on whether they are mastering these standards and that they understand the language of many of them. And that's one of the reasons why the targets are put in I can